Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Thursday, November the 20th, 2025, and today we are talking about if vermicompost tea can help protect from frosts, tool maintenance, and tilling compost 20 inches into the soil. We'll look at it, so let's do it. All right, happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and that the week is treating you relatively kindly. I also hope you enjoyed my chat with Dan Brisebois yesterday as much as I did. Love that guy. Not a ton going on the farm this week beyond the usual harvest and delivery stuff. One of the things I actually appreciate most about the fall, in fact, is that there's almost no planting or cultivation or anything. It's really just almost exclusively harvesting and delivering. So that's nice. I do plan to start some early spring lettuce soon for the late winter. Growers in the area usually wait until like the new year to bother with that stuff. But I found a few years ago that if I did it really early, like around Thanksgiving, and then of course planted it in the tunnel and kept it pretty well protected all winter, that I had really nice lettuce going into March. So that's the goal this year. And then also start some around the new year as well, just to have some in late March. Trying to get a jump start on the spring is I guess the idea here. Before I dive in today, don't forget to always send your 20-second farm video clips to farmermike@no-tillgrowers.com. And this month, highlight something that you've grown from the garden. That's kind of the theme this month, but I don't really care if you do that any month. I always want to see what's coming out of your gardens and what you're turning it into. All right, so as is our pseudo Thursday tradition, we are going to take 3 Patreon questions today and get to the bottom of whatever it is you all need getting to the bottom of. Patreon members, remember, as always, to get your questions into the most recent show thread. In this case, it would be November's show thread, and you just add a comment or a question or a topic. Our first Patreon member question of the day comes to us from Patreon member Daniel Moore, who writes, quote, "Hey, Jesse, and Nicole Masters is for the love of soil. She makes the case for vermicompost and vermicompost tea extracts. One use she highlights is frost protection. Frost on the leaves, she explains, are initiated by ice nucleating bacteria. In vermicompost is said to be a form of bacteria that eat ice nucleating bacteria. So by doing a vermi-tea foliar spray, you can protect plants from frost down to an additional 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Have you ever experimented with this? And if it works as good as she claims, can you see uses for this technique, like protecting late season crops from early frost or extending the season in certain zones? Thanks for the show. Love your work, and I'm looking forward to when my Wrexham boys will get to play Brighton in the Prem. Love from Alabama," end quote. Okay then, love this question. And let's start with the most important part, that Wrexham probably, unfortunately, they're not likely to make the Premier League this year. I mean, it's not impossible, but almost for their sake, that they should stay in the championship for a year while they get all their infrastructure in place. But anyway, they probably will eventually make it. And I have to say that it is kind of incredible. A lot of people just throw money at these lower league teams, and it doesn't always amount to anything. But Rob and Ryan have got great people in place, and I'm pretty impressed with what they've been able to do so far. So also because Wrexham is a mining town there in Wales, being a mining state here in Kentucky, I have a lot of affection for anything that helps those folks out. And the show is solid. Well done. Anyway, microbes, frost protection, right. Let's look at it. So I read Nicole's book back in 2020, I think. And luckily I had a digital copy where I could read a little bit about what she said about this, where she said an important aspect of her program was the application of 2 kilograms per hectare. That would be like 2 pounds per acre of vermicast as a liquid extract. She goes on, quote, "There is a multitude of reasons to add vermicast: plant growth hormones, humic substances, nutrient solubilizing bacteria and fungi, frost-eating bacteria, and more," end quote. So I have heard this before, this idea that compost teas and that sort of thing will help with frost protection, and I've heard that higher Brix levels will also do that, which Nicole also writes about in her excellent book. But I figured I would meander through the science a little bit to see what I could find. There does seem to be some correlation between vermicast and frost protection, but it isn't enough to say go out and spray vermicast on your plants and you should be good to go. That's not going to frost. I can't really say that, not from what I could find at least, though. to be sure, I only had a small chunk of time to dive into the research, but also healthier plants do seem to be more able to protect themselves from this sort of abiotic stress, non-biological stress, frost, but also droughts and that sort of stuff. Those are abiotic stresses anyway. So in general, I think it's a good practice to utilize vermicompost where possible, from inoculating the seeds to fertigation to responsible foliar applications, responsible just meaning following food safety guidelines. So I couldn't find any definitive research to back up this idea, but I don't have any reason to doubt Nicole's work necessarily, and that it doesn't mean that the research doesn't exist. I did find some research that seems to suggest vermicompost could potentially increase the protection of other antifreezes, like other chemical agricultural antifreezes, which, yes, is a thing when those two things are mixed together, but very little about the vermicast extract on its own. I do think it would be interesting and fun experiment that could be run at home, especially in the fall, where you could spray vermicast on sections of potentially sensitive crops and just, go observe them in the morning and over their life. Do they get frosted? If so, do they, run into the same amount of damage? Is the damage equal to the control plot? That could be fun and not crazy hard to carry out if you have vermicast. One hang-up would be temperature of the vermicast itself. Whatever vermicast you use and water you use should be at room temperature or slightly warmer for good microbial activity, as if it's too cold, if the extract and the water are too cold, it may not have the life it needs to be effective. Anyway, Nicole's book is excellent and you should check it out. It's great stuff. She gives at least one anecdote of where she says one plot treated with vermicast lost only 5% of the crop compared to some in the region who lost 80%. So that's certainly intriguing. I know I couldn't exactly answer the question here, but I don't know that there is a perfect answer out there. I will keep looking into it though, because I'm a nerd like that. And I think that's fascinating. If anyone has any experience with this, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we will discuss some simple hand tool maintenance and some interesting nuances of linseed oil. Be right back.
Hey nerds, non-farmer Steve here in Seattle, taking care of some late season green tomatoes. Roast them up in the oven, 425 till they blacken. Blend them up in a mini prep with some spices like chili powder, cumin, oregano. Then use it as enchilada sauce, or maybe make a wet burrito, something like that. Delicious.
Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. Farmers who partnered with Farmhand say they grew an average of 63% this year because it's more than software. Farmhand is your business coach and assistant, helping to sell out, save time, and grow smarter with real data from real farms, shaping websites that convert, campaigns that sell, and fulfillment systems that run smoothly. Curious what that looks like? Meet the founder, Ari, at farmhand.partners/no-till and see the same insights and support the fastest growing farms rely on every week. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. Today's episode is also brought to you by High Mowing Organic Seeds. High Mowing Organic Seeds is celebrating their 30th anniversary with 47 fabulous new varieties for 2026. Highlights include downy mildew-resistant cucumbers, a poppy that looks like cotton candy, and 12 new tomato varieties. High Mowing offers more than 750 varieties of certified organic, non-GMO vegetables, flowers, herbs, and cover crops, all trialed for optimal performance in organic growing systems. High Mowing has the professional quality seeds and supportive grower reps to get you from seed to harvest. Visit highmowingseeds.com to request a catalog and use code 26NOTILL, all one word, 26NOTILL, for 10% off your order of $100 or more. That's highmowingseeds.com. All right, back to the show.
If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's second Patreon question comes to us from Brian at Snowflake Farm, who writes, quote, "Hey, Jesse, I just sent Mike another video. Appreciate that. And it made me think a good topic for the show might be hand tool maintenance. Stuff like protecting the wooden handles, sharpening, cleaning, etc." End quote. Thank you for sending the video, Brian. We really appreciate those. And an excellent and timely question, as we are all starting to clean up our farms from the season, or at least beginning to think about it. I'm certainly somewhere between the thinking about it stage and the tinkering stage. So anyway, one of those things I like to do every year, though it usually ends up being about once every 18 months, if I'm being honest, is I like to oil each of the wooden handles that I, like use, any of the stirrupos, all that stuff, with linseed oil or tongue oil. Polymerized linseed is generally the recommendation. That's the type of oil, but raw linseed can work as well. The main difference is the amount of time it will take for the oil to dry, and also expense. I think the polymerized is a little bit more expensive. If you're still cultivating and such and plan to use your tools, here in the next couple of weeks, a polymerized linseed is the better way to go because it will dry faster, or a tongue oil, which is the other option, TUNG, tongue, made from the pressing of the seeds of the tongue tree and not from the pressing of tongues, which is good. Now, boiled linseed oil is also an option, but the thing that probably a little known fact about it is that boiled linseed generally contains like drying agents, sometimes heavy metals and or petroleum products, so stuff you may not necessarily want on your hot, sweaty hands the following year or around your food. It dries fast, but it is also said to not last as long. Like it doesn't have the same level of protection. So yeah, boiled is generally not actually, or at least not just boiled, but is artificially enhanced with chemicals. And the chemically sounding one, the polymerized, is one that is boiled and considered safe. Cool. Clear as mud. Anyway, the other thing we will do for tool maintenance is sharpen our knives and hoes with a whetstone and get them nice and tucked away for the winter. That way they are ready to roll when we get back to it in the tunnels in the springtime. It is also a good time to organize the seed rollers or plates for your seeders and maybe get those things off the ground, Jesse. I'm talking to myself there. I also, when I have the time, like to go ahead and grease any fittings and fix up or tune up the tractor because come spring, I won't have the time to do those things, or at least I won't want to clear the time to do those things. Clearing off any of the implements is also a good idea, especially the mower, which can be a sneaky source of weed seeds in the garden. In general, it is suggested that you take care of the expensive array of tools you own. So not the worst idea to clean things off, to tune them up, to grease those implements, to oil the handles, sort them, all of those responsible business owner and or gardener things. I guess not a ton more to say about that from me, except for that organization going into the season next year will help with organization during the season next year. So it's always good to do that. If stuff is easy to get at, you will probably be more likely to put it away. Anyway, I hope that answered some of that question to some extent. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we will take on an interesting approach to getting compost as deep as can be. Right back. I finished the sentence with it. Anyway, you get it. Be right back.
Zucchini latkes. So I had made a green powder from brassica leaves. They're super nutritious, so don't waste them, as well as some garlic powder. So you're going to grate your zucchini, put it in a colander to drain the extra moisture, then combine it with eggs, almond flour, green powder, and garlic, and some dill and lemon balm, and bake them. And here is my little garden where it all came from.
Today's episode is brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud supporter of Growers Daily. At Johnny's, they do more than sell seeds. They grow them. They trial them to see how they perform on Johnny's research farm in Maine and across the U.S. and Canada. Only the best varieties are added to their catalog and website. When you need proven varieties you can count on and detailed guidance from seedling to harvest, consider Johnny's your trusted growing partner. JohnnySeeds.com. That's JohnnySeeds.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Marble Seed. The Marble Seed Organic Farming Conference attracts a wide range of regenerative and organic farmers for 3 days of skill development and community building. Farmer Drew Kramer said, "Going to Marble Seed was so invigorating at a time when I needed it most. I picked up tools I'm already using." The conference is the final week in February in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Early registration opens December 4th at conference.marbleseed.org. That's conference.marbleseed.org. All right, back to the show.
Okay, so our final Patreon question of the day comes to us from Patreon member Martin Komaru, who writes, quote, "Hi, Jesse, I have a large garden. After negotiating with my wife, I can use about 0.6 or 0.7 acres of it for whatever I want. The area will have a very heavy focus on trees, fruit, nut, biodiversity, and bushes. Therefore, with deeper root systems, I figure it would be best to amend more deeply than is normally done, 20 inches or so. However, the rototiller I have can't go deeper than 10 inches, which seems like the general maximum depth I could find any machine that isn't attached to a tractor. So my original plan was to rent a mini digger and then in steps, take off the first 8 to 9 inches, add compost and till it in, add the 8 to 9 inches back, and compost and till it in. That should mean that I have amended with 10 to 20%, depending on the final choice and plant-specific needs, of compost at a depth of 20 inches once accounting for the compost added. Then plant my trees and bushes in mass and heavily sow for cover crops that have deep root penetration to break up any potential compaction further down and keep the soil loose. It's obviously a lot of work, so I was wondering if you potentially see a better/easier way, end quote. Well now, Martin, this is an interesting question and quite the ambitious endeavor. So first thing I should say, because it's not 100% clear here where the compost will go specifically or exactly, most perennials should not be composted before going into the soil. A small amount of soil amending is okay, but adding too much compost can cause issues with many fruit trees, berries, etc. But maybe you already know that and you were just thinking about doing this around a whole area to liven it up a bit, or specific crops or whatever, or you're doing it enough ahead of time that it should be fine. Like what would that be, like 6 months or so before you're planting anything. However, whether it is necessary is a bigger question. I get the compaction trouble, so I get the impulse, but perhaps the initial preparation, maybe with some rock minerals as guided by a soil test and agronomist, might be a place to start. Then around those plants before planting and once per year for a couple years, you could till that in and then fork soil deep enough to break up that deeper compaction at, in situ, like while stuff is growing. I'm not saying your idea won't work. It might very well work and might work really well. And certainly the soil will be better off in general having that much organic matter so low into it. Or you can utilize the cover crops, some top dressing of compost, the broad forking of specific areas, and just work with that. It will take more time to decompact, obviously, than your idea, but it will likely be just as effective with less work. Clay can be brutal, so I get it. But at least if it were me, that's what I would probably do. Otherwise, it may take you no small amount of time and work to do roughly 2/3 of an acre that way. Anyway, let us know what you ultimately do there. We'd be curious to hear how it goes. Otherwise, I think we are done here on this Thursday. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You can learn more about how to do that in the show notes to get that end of the year tax break. We do truly appreciate those, and it helps to create this work and keep it free and open to anyone and everyone who may need it. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor this show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at no-tillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music and Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at no-tillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of November, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to EP, like the record. Maybe it's like EEP. I don't know. Thank you for signing up. All right, so in this week's story, you will remember we're back at the Chateau Benoit, not Le Chat Noir, and there is a giant cat troll standing before our heroine, Rebecca. The cat troll had just mentioned that humans rarely come there, and rather it is the others who typically come by. Rebecca then inquires, who exactly are the others? And just then, an old hot rod pulls up, loud and gaudy. Well, says the cat troll, you can meet one now. And out of that hot rod steps another cat troll, comically large for the car they were driving, but clearly similar species to the cat troll she's talking to. And anyway, the hot rod cat troll walks into the hotel office, and he laughs. You must be lost. And then he laughs again, but louder this time, just for emphasis. Humans don't come here often, says that hot rod cat troll. Then both of the cat trolls laugh again, which Rebecca feels a little bit like they're laughing a little bit too much, but that's all right. What happens when they do come here? Asks Rebecca somewhat nervously. Well, the hot rod cat troll says, why don't you come have dinner with us and we'll show you. And that is for tomorrow on Cat Troll Dinner Party. Yep. All right. Thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you tomorrow for Feedback Friday. Bye.